Hello! Happy Friday and welcome back to the Trading Desk with myself, Joshua Thanos, and my partner,
Jason Main. Thanks for logging in, guys. Yep, another Friday, another week in the books.
That's right. It's Friday night, guys, so it's time to get jiggy with it.
Nope.
All right. Wrist check, Jay. What are you wearing today?
Today I am wearing, you guys know this watch, it's back, the 114060 ceramic non-date sub, the best Submariner ever made. Love this watch. I wear it all the time. Probably arguably the most versatile watch that exists, the Submariner.
What?
And yeah, I mean it's the perfect watch.
Okay.
What are you gonna? Nah. All kidding aside, this thing does get worn quite a bit. I purposely put it back in the watch box for a little while to live without it for about a month, to really get back to enjoying some of my other watches. Plus, I just got that Oris, so I wanted to include it in the rotation. But I'm happy to have this back on the wrist. And this is the.
That's you, not me.
This is the ceramic non-date sub, as I was saying.
Nice.
All right, and Josh is wearing.
It looks like you cleaned the crystal after your public shaming. So that's nice.
I don't even know that was really a thing. I don't know.
It was.
You seem to be hung up on that.
Many people are upset about how dirty your watch was, Jason.
Okay.
You got to take better care, man. You sell those for a living, you know? All right. So on the wrist here, you guys, it's a new one for me because I move a little quicker than Jason does in terms of watch trading and whatnot. So we'll talk about that a little bit later today. Oh, wow. That looks fantastic on screen.
Does look good.
Dude, that looks better on screen than it does.
I think Josh took my last episode with CQ a little bit to heart.
I didn't watch it, Jason.
Yeah.
I don't watch anything that's not involved
Josh
in me.
called me for advice right before he pulled the trigger on this. And
yeah, untrue. Fake news. So here you have the 41 millimeter ceramic Omega Seamaster 300M. So this is the prior to the wave dial, which I was going back and forth. Actually, I had a customer who bought one of these from us, and that's kind of how I buy my watches at this point now. It's just if I sell something that I really, really like, I go out and buy it myself. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But yeah, so this is the newest piece to the collection. It's fantastic, actually. I like it better on the bracelet than the 42. The 42 on the bracelet's a little big. The 42 on a strap, unbelievable, fantastic watch. Go buy one today in every metal imaginable. There you go. Zoom it in. Let's just get like super close.
So this
wow,
is
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that blue really pops. Dude. So that's probably my favorite iteration of this generation in the blue on blue. But we had the black on black last week when we compared it to the 42 millimeter.
Yeah.
When I was here with Sequan, and I think this is my favorite of the 300 meter bones.
You mentioned that you like the blue, so I told you if you buy the black, I'll just trade you straight up because I'd rather have the black. I had a chance to get a good deal on this one here, which is another way I buy my watches. If it's a good deal, I'll just go ahead and buy it. And this came full set, and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. I wore it in Miami last week.
Perfect watch for Miami.
Yeah, I wore it to the beach. I also wore it out to dinner. Just wore it kind of at all times. And so I'd say it's probably the most versatile watch you could buy on the planet. Yeah. But yeah, and
that's
price
really
point's
what
fantastic.
the this or that should have been.
Oh, yeah, it's probably true. Maybe we can do that instead. But yeah, so and the price point, I think what the retail on this was like $4,400.
Yeah, I mean
nearly free.
Yeah, I mean that's retail, but let's be honest. There's so many.
Yeah, I didn't pay retail for it.
Seamasters out there that you can get great deals on.
Pre-owned you can get it for less than $3,000, and it's an unbelievable value at that price point.
There are some certain upgrades on the newer one, but I think bang for buck, and if it was my dollar, I'd buy that watch.
Yeah, I think the biggest.
I think you did good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate that. And that's really why I buy watches, so that you can tell me I did a good job.
Yeah, good job.
Awesome. All right, are we done here?
Yeah, let's go home.
All right, cool. So this week we have a this or that poll. It's going to be
a little bit skewed.
Yeah. So basically, shows you how much we have a chance to prepare for this, especially going into the holiday season. Things are very busy in the office, so we could bring up the this or that. Do we have the graphic for it? I don't even know what the graphic looks like. Just this or that. All right, cool. So we meant to put an IWC versus a JLC. They're supposed to be stainless steel, kind of lower end pieces. I grabbed the wrong watch, guys. So we're still going to do it, and we'll see how it goes. So the poll is still up. You could pick Jason's IWC. You could pick up my JLC, and we'll talk about them in just a second. You want to go first, Jay?
Sure. I'll go first.
Go for it.
So
his watch is really nice, actually.
Yeah, the idea was kind of looming into what we're going to talk about right after this, and it was relatively entry-level Swiss watches. So like the first, a good entry-level first watch
Right.
that's Swiss made. That's not going to break the bank. This is the newest Portofino that exists, and
It's actually super nice.
it's really nice.
Nobody
it's
ever talks about Portofinos.
Yeah, look, so it's the gloss black dial, negative date, which I really appreciate. It's a 40 millimeter, so it's a pretty modern dress watch.
You were saying that about a negative date on another watch. I can't remember
Yeah.
what it was. Like you said, that would make the AP diver. You
Right.
mentioned that if they
Yeah.
had the negative date with the black with the white writing.
It makes such a clean, especially on a dress watch. I think it's a very important detail. On a sport watch, like sometimes the dials can be a little bit more cluttered, and it doesn't it's not a big deterrent. But on something like this, where the dial is so clean, it really helps. And then 40 millimeter, like I was saying, really nothing much going on the case back. But
Oh, look, a solid case back.
solid case back, but you know where you save that money. This particular piece retails like $4,500.
Sure.
Pre-owned, these are well under $3,000,
Yeah.
like $2,700 pre-owned. You can get one that's flawless, full set, 40 millimeter, Swiss made, automatic, sapphire crystal, great dress watch. It's simple, and I think for what it is for the money, I would go with that over something like a Longines, right?
Sure.
Like if you're looking at like a $1,100 Longines, why don't we spend
Double that.
$2,200 or $2,500 and get the IWC? So.
Yeah.
For me, that's a good entry-level dress watch.
I think that's fantastic. So my pick was going to be the Steel Geophysic.
The True Second.
True Second.
A little bit different than the watch we have here.
So I went and grabbed a watch out of the safe, and if you guys can zoom in here, you can see what we got going on.
It's pretty, though.
All right. So at first glance, this looks exactly like a Steel Geophysic True Second. Except
But
that
there's
doesn't
more.
Say, it doesn't say true Second on the dial. And in fact, if you feel the watch, you notice it seems a little heavy. The reason being, this watch is made of platinum. This is actually a super cool watch. And again, this or that, whatever you guys want to pick. His watch retails for $45,000. Mine retails for $25,000.
Yeah. Josh says it was a mistake. I think he just tried to trick me.
Maybe. I don't know. I think I'll lose, though. So if you notice here, you'll see it says limited edition of 58 pieces, and that's the case. So this was, in 2014, they released the 3 versions of the Geophysique. They had a steel, a rose. The steel was, I think, 500 pieces or 800 pieces. The rose was 300 pieces. And then they released a platinum of 58 pieces, which we have here. I can't even find another for sale online. So this is actually kind of a special watch. But yeah, so this watch, 38.5 millimeters. So it has the same wrist presence as that IWC, except when people ask you, hey, that's a great, or they tell you, they compliment you, hey, that's a great stainless steel watch. You say, no, this one is platinum, which has the same look as stainless steel without the stigma of low cost. Yeah. So spend $25,000 to get a watch that looks like it's steel, but it is super special. This is certainly not an entry-level watch in any sense of the word.
The opposite of what you tried to accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. And it's part of a larger. It's good as part of a larger collection. I'd say the watch is special. So if you like JLC, it looks nothing like a True Seconds. That's a 1958, right? But the dials are literally the same, except that one says True Second, one that doesn't. So yeah.
So imagine
Geophysic.
5 minutes left to get out of the office, running out of here to get to the show for you guys. Josh looks in the vault, sees a watch with beige hands, pulls it. Yeah. All right, we're out of here.
It's a JLC though, so it's almost the same.
So yeah, you got the brand right.
Yeah.
So points for that.
And the True Second is all about the deadbeat complication, which I really like, and I've been trying to work that into a this or that for a while. Maybe I'll get it right next week.
The deadbeat is probably the coolest part of that watch. I like that complication.
Yeah, deadbeat is super cool. I wish more. Well, like Arnold & Son does that in almost every one of their watches.
Yeah, and those are super special.
Super
special. Awesome watches.
Great, just really the best.
Just the best watches.
Yeah, man. So you guys can vote this or that. I have a feeling. I have no idea what's going to win. So you can either spend less than $4,500 on Jason's stainless steel entry level IWC, or more than $20,000 on a platinum 1 of 15 or 1 of 58 Geophysic watches.
So awesome comparison. So you can either start a collection and then complete a collection with 3 other watches or 4 other watches, or buy Josh's
Actually,
watch.
You know what? These aren't bookends. This is a great watch to start a collection with. Sorry, let's see. Let's see. This the IWC is a great watch to start a collection with, especially if you work in an office and you don't want to have a bracelet watch. If you want something that's not going to be banging on the desk all day long, you don't want to scratch it up like this huge clasp that I have here. that's actually a very good entry-level watch for somebody who works in an office. This is a fantastic bookend piece to kind of complete a collection. After you buy that, maybe you go to an Omega, like a Speedmaster or something. Then you get a Submariner. Then maybe you get an Seamaster or something, or a Panerai, something funky. Then
one of the cool things about this piece, and with the 7.5-inch wrist, and you guys know I wear the PAM 510, just my largest watch, in 44 millimeter, and then the Sub or maybe one or two of my Seikos are the smaller size. This is a 40 millimeter case. And it actually wears really nice for a dress look.
Yeah, the lugs are long.
Yeah.
That's kind of and the watch is not thin.
It's nice.
Here, I'm going to vote for myself and see what the results are. Let's throw the results up there just for shits and giggles here.
Let's see how many guys got 25K for platinums.
Yeah. Hey,
you're winning
lots of
for
those
now.
guys. By the way, give me a call. Watch is for sale. Let me see yours.
Is it for sale?
That watch is for sale.
Okay.
Everybody who voted for it now has to make a bid. That's how it works now.
All right.
Let me see how this wears. Oh, wow. This is nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
So my wrist is a little bit smaller than yours. I have about a 7-inch wrist.
dial is pretty cool.
Is it lacquered?
Well, it's like it might not be lacquered. It's
Sunburst
a
or
true
something.
gloss dial, yeah.
Yeah, it does wear very nice, actually.
It's pretty nice. For a dress watch, I think it's definitely appropriate.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right, cool. So that was something.
That was mishap,
Yeah.
but we're working with it.
2 cool watches.
All right.
So, and it actually kind of takes us into what we wanted to chat about today, guys. We're not really going to talk about the market on watches because we're a little bit tired of talking about the market on watches. We've been buying and selling them all week. So what we wanted to talk about is actually buying watches and I guess selling them as well, but collecting. We talked about it a little bit. We've had our collections on the show before, which was a few months ago. It was kind of a disaster. It was kind of like a boring show. So we want to make it more conversational, and what we want to talk about is kind of our approach to collecting. Seeing as I bought an Omega,
Yeah.
would be like my second or third Omega that I've had in my collection. It's the only one I have now. You have your Rolex, and I mean I have more watches than you do. I mean I have real watches that say would trade in an office like ours. I probably have 6 or 7, and then altogether I probably have right now I think I counted over 20 watches. I got a bunch of junk.
A long time ago, I got rid of a lot of my junk stuff, so I consolidated. But I probably have.
Well, you've been collecting twice as long as I have, I guess.
Yeah, at one point I had I don't know 60 watches maybe, just all kinds of Seikos and all kinds of craziness.
60, all right. So I don't have 60 yet, but I do know guys who do.
I find a hobby and I kind of jump head in. Yeah,
Now you have 30 knives.
So yeah, I find a hobby and I jump all. But yeah, there's definitely different paths to collecting. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. I think what really sets it apart is not so much the path, but the mindset behind it.
Process, right?
Right, the process of how you establish what you want. So this came about because Josh came back after purchasing this and told me, hey, look what I got. And he just kind of knew after he sold the one to his customer that all right, that's on the short list. And if a deal pops up, I'm going to grab one.
It's easy to find a deal on
this
watch too, by the way.
So why don't you talk about that a little bit of kind of how you determine what you're going to buy?
Yeah, and I think the way you collect evolves a little bit, and I've had these conversations with people before, so I thought it's a good way to talk about it on the show. So right now, well, number one, the reason why I think both of us collect watches is because we're in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different than our customers who are buying watches from us or our friends who buy watches who are not in the industry. For them, and partially for us, it's a celebration of success, right? So, that's the number one. The reason why you buy an expensive watch, because you can buy anything that can tell time. You can pay $3 for a quartz watch; it'll tell time.
Sure.
You're buying your first nice Swiss watch normally because it's a celebration of success. Maybe you worked up to something, and now you want to prove to yourself or prove to others that, hey, listen, I can afford something like this. I've accomplished enough of my life that I can
justify owning this,
or however you want to look at it, justify spending $1, $2, $3, $5, $10, $20, $100,000 on a watch, right? So my first watch was, and I used to wear it a lot on the show actually when I first started because it was really my only watch, was a Panerai, and that's kind of why I like Panerai so much. It was a Panerai 380, which was it's a manual wind Radomir, and it's stainless steel. It's got the OP logo, black seal on there. At the time when I bought it, it was a $4,900 retail. Not too long after, they dropped the retail to $42,000, which was super awesome. Thanks, Panerai. I really appreciate that. And then they discontinued it as well.
Right.
Now they have a newer version of the watch. But yeah, that was my very first Swiss watch, like real watch. I had some G-Shocks.
Yeah.
Had some like mall junk watches.
I remember that watch. I think I wore that watch for a weekend one time when we were down in Florida.
Right. Yeah.
It was a good watch.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good watch. That was my entry into Swiss watches. It got me comfortable because, to be honest with you, before I started selling watches, I got into watches. I really didn't wear them. I just didn't really think about it. I had a cell phone. Never really understood, why somebody would spend the money on a watch.
Right.
So once I was in the industry and I saw the watches and I started seeing people spend money on them, and I started looking at this, I'm like, all right, well, number one, it's a store of value, right? So there's not a lot of luxury goods that you can buy that are worth the money, that are especially in this price range. Sometimes there's some Ferraris, I guess, that you can buy and they're worth money.
Right.
But normally, you go buy a Lexus, you buy a Mercedes, and it's worth a fraction of what you paid for it. That's kind of what luxury is, right? With watches, I guess that can be the case as well. But if you buy a pre-owned watch, for the most part, it's going to be worth usually at least 75% of what you spend. So it's a store of value for a lot of people. It's also a celebration of your success in the regards that if I buy a Mercedes, I can't walk into the restaurant and buy a nice steak and have that Mercedes on my wrist, right? Whereas I can carry my my Submariner or my gold Rolex Present everywhere I go. So if you're buying it as a celebration of success, that's part of it. Always having it with you, making an impression, looking down your wrist and having a certain
interesting take.
It.
Yeah,
right.
For sure, it's definitely something to think about. I don't, I know a lot of people that are both ways. Some people internalize, like I personally, the watch is for me, and I'm not worried about I give two shits about what somebody it's for me, and I guess technically it's collecting, but I like watches that are wearers.
Sure.
So I'm not putting anything in a safe. Same thing with knives or whatever. I want to be able to use it, and carry it.
Use your knives?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
You want to see? So
what happened to that jogger that we saw last week that you were yelling at?
So for me, it's more about I don't necessarily I guess the celebrating success. It's nice to upgrade. I grew up around watches. Mm-hmm. My grandfather was into watches. My father was into watches. So when I was a kid, I had a digital Casio on my wrist when I was a little kid, and always had a watch. And one of the very first things that I purchased when my very first job making minimum wage was a watch. It was nothing special, but it was a bracelet watch and it was analog. It wasn't digital. It was the first analog watch I bought. So, my first Swiss watch, I was actually working in the industry for about a year, I would say, maybe 15 months or so before I actually pulled the trigger.
Right.
And kind of to get back to what you were talking about, you're a little bit more spur of the moment, maybe not ooh shiny type of spur of the moment. You like what you like to a baseline, and then if something pops up, it's what you want.
Sure.
But that was Bigfoot, guys. We definitely have different profiles, right?
Sure.
So I have a hit list, and I know what I like, and it's kind of an evolving, that's the next step. That's the next.
Sure.
So for me, I'm a little bit more I'm much more deliberate in my research, in my planning, in determining what I want and figuring it out. So it took me about, not that it took me a year to make the decision, but it was about a year to 15 months before I was comfortable spending a good sum, spending about a check worth of money on a watch. And so my very first watch, that was a serious watch, was a Breitling Super Ocean Steelfish.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I got it directly from Breitling. They had a special incentive plan back then at Torno when I was there, and I was able to get a pretty good deal on it. And
was it free?
No, it was not. I spent.
Was this the watch that you recently sold? Not so long ago?
Yeah, I had it for a long time.
Wow, yeah,
almost
you're much more deliberate than I am.
Yeah, it was a great watch.
Spur of the moment.
It was a great watch, and I wore it for many, many years. It served me very well, and I still think it's probably the most handsome Breitling that exists. The Steelfish has those big, bright dive markers.
Sure.
It's depth rated. It's an awesome watch, and for what you can get them for pre-owned, right now I think you get them for $2,000, $2,200.
Sure.
Back then the retail I think
how'd
was
you sell
almost
yours for
$5,000.
to a guy in the office? That's strange. Chasing ripping people
didn't,
off out
but
here.
I definitely didn't take a loss on it. It was a great piece.
Sure.
And
I've seen that watch. You used to wear it.
The coolest thing for me is that I spent.
You were wearing that watch when we hired you.
Did you? Was I? Maybe.
Yeah,
on a NATO strap, I think.
I remember that. I'm not going to forget.
So, for me, the research paid off because that watch lasted 12 years of my collection, and it was worn all the time, and it certainly paid itself back in having it and owning it in value. So that's kind of the way I see it. Like, I see owning, to me, this is not a $9,000 watch, right? Because I didn't pay that for it. But
$7,500 retail.
Right. But on the secondary now, I mean, they're crazy.
Same thing.
So, all right, the date is about, but the thing is like, if I wear this for 15 years and I take a $2,000 loss, let's say, which probably isn't going to happen, but if it is, I got 15
things go back
years
to normal,
of work out of this thing. You know, that's the way I look at it. So I'm a little bit more deliberate. I like doing the research. I like crossing over X and Y and Z. Sure. Josh is a little bit more spur of the moment. And
it took me 3 months to buy.
Ooh, squirrel.
Well, so here's the story, actually. You want to hear the actual story of how I bought my watch? So I was going to buy a Pam 000.
The Radimir?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first Switch watch I ever bought. Before that, I had a G-Shock, and in terms of my background, like, my dad had a Tag Heuer. I think it might have been fake. I don't know. Like, my dad doesn't wear watches. He does now because I buy him watches, but he didn't care about watches, and I didn't know much about them. So I was working actually at Watch You Want for like 3 or 4 months, doing all right, buying and selling watches, getting pretty good at it. Had a few checks. I decided I was going to buy a Pam 000. OJ Watley had kind of talked me into Panerai. OJ, if you're watching, thank you.
Shout out to OJ.
Yeah. If you're not watching, it's a little upsetting.
Hope you're enjoying your life.
Right. So, so I bought I was going to buy a Pam 000, so the original logo, and I had it, and I was trying to decide. I got a bug up my butt and decided that, or up my ass. I don't ever say that, but that's weird. So, got a bug up my ass and decided I was going to buy a watch that day. I guess it was probably day after payday.
Right.
I got the watch on my desk. I'm looking at it. This is a watch that was in our inventory. It was for sale on our website. I'm looking at it. I put it on my wrist. I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to buy this. Yes, I've decided I'm going to buy this watch. I'm getting all excited about it. Got my debit card out, about to ring myself up. And all of a sudden, I get an email. Hey, this watch is sold. So I turn around to the guy behind me who's sitting at the desk behind me. He literally sells the watch while it's on my wrist. It's gone. I'm like, hey, can you talk the guy out? No. He goes, no.
Give it back.
Give me the damn watch. Yeah, that was Lenny Steinman. Thank you so much, Lenny. So Lenny sells the watch off my wrist. I was a little pissed. I'm like, shit. So I go back into the safe, and the next watch I see with a similar dial, it has the OP on it, was the PAM 380. I decided, whatever, screw it. I'll buy this one instead. So I put it on my wrist. Took it off the website.
Thing, right? Josh is like,
that's how I decided on that watch, man. I think for me, and like in terms of like guys who like to buy watches, there's a lot of guys who are like you, paralysis by analysis type guys who are going to take their time, decide, make sure, sleep on it, then decide to buy it, and then sleep on it again. For me, if I want to buy a watch, I'm going to buy it. So I'll pick the one I want, and if that one's not available, let me get another one.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I
can see that.
I built my collection.
What's funny is, like, doing this for a long time, I've actually, like, I talk myself out of a lot of watches before I even get to the point where I consider buying them. And I think a lot of collectors do this too. You become very deliberate about everything, and it's very easy to just talk yourself out of something. Like, if I wanted to make myself love the new Seamaster, I probably could. But there's like 2 things about it that just don't do it for me, so I just write it off, and it's very quick. And I'll look at a watch, and it could be, almost perfect, and the second hand doesn't do it for me. So you know what? The next one, whatever.
Right.
So I think it's easy to overanalyze a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So there is probably a percentage of what you do that could be lent to me, and then maybe you could do a little bit more research on some things.
Oh, certainly, I need to do more research.
But
I see you sometimes put a watch on, and all of a sudden I look over, and you're still wearing it, and you're like, oh man, this is nice.
Yeah.
That's how I buy.
Yeah.
If I get a watch on my wrist, that's why, dude. I'd be like a local. If I was in some other industry, some hedge fund manager just making money, had money to spend on watches, I would be a dream customer.
You'd be calling yourself, my God, shipping stuff in.
I would be see, the thing for me is if I get it on my wrist and it just looks and feels right, I gotta buy it, and I'm very impulsive in that regard. So I'd be the guy walking downtown. Let me peep into the watch store, get it on the wrist, and almost immediately, or at least I do, whether or not I like the watch. So I put it on immediately. Oh, wow, it fits nice. Ooh, it fits nice. You get that feeling, a little tingle. You're like, ooh, it fits nice.
Yeah.
And then you look around, and you go, okay, all right. You see the price tag? I got that.
Doable.
Oh God. So that's 1 and 2, right? And then number 3 is, all right. I can't take this off my wrist. I gotta buy it. You know, I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have bought them online, but I'd say I'm actually impressed by guys who can buy watches without ever trying them on. I have a lot of customers that are like, yo, I want that watch. They buy it. It's not like they just send it back. I mean, some guys do, which is fine, I guess. It's part of selling watches online. But I don't know if I'd be able to. I'd have to at least try the watch on because a lot of times the fit is an issue for me.
Yeah, it's really knowing your wrist and knowing how certain watches sit on your wrist. I think there's a lot of guys that just stay with one watch because they fall in love with it, and we've talked about that, like model collecting. And that's a thing too because you know exactly how it's going to fit, so you're comfortable with that.
Sure.
I personally like to experience a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, having all those watches to going down to one to now coming back and having a handful of nice pieces, for me it's just kind of about experiencing different things. So that's part of the collecting. That's part of figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
Right.
At least the way I look at it. I have definitely sold watches to people and sell it so hard that I sell myself on it.
Yeah.
But then you go ahead and pay for yours and you own it. Whereas I sell so hard that I'm like, this thing's really nice. I told the guy it's really nice and damn, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Should I buy this? And then after a day of thinking about it or wearing it, I'm like, nah, you know what? It's not for me. And I will talk myself out of it. But I feel myself overselling sometimes and definitely selling myself on the piece. So I can see how you do that.
For me, once I put a watch on the wrist and I can the first thing I look at, obviously I look at the dial and I like dial depth on a dial. So like this watch, right? So here, let's get another zoom in here. Wake up. Okay. So you can see. Sorry, I'm being a jerk. Yeah, sorry. So you can see like how this dial and bezel kind of pops so nice. That's the first thing you're just like, oh wow, look at that. So if I'm impressed by a watch, and if you guys are listening on the podcast, too bad. Go on YouTube. You can see how awesome my new watch is. But it's if I'm impressed by the dial, that's like 90% of it. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. There's a JLC here. I'm done. JLC Dualmet that we just brought in. That's white gold. It's a special edition. I believe it's like a world timer or some sort of GMT, and it has a very textured dial. The watch is unbelievable. I saw that watch and I just started thinking how I'm gonna pay for this thing. Like, oh god,
wheels start turning. You're like, all right, purge, sell everything.
Sell a few watches. Oh god, all right. Well, I got some real estate. Let's see if I can pull some equity out of that. Ooh, do I really need that second car? Yeah. What are we gonna do here? Let's spend $30,000 on a white gold watch.
Then you walk yourself back off the ledge and you start
then
realizing.
Then I go buy something for $3,000 instead and just kind of hold myself
because it's shiny
over.
And you're happy.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Yeah,
you see a watch that you can't afford, and you really, really, really want it, but it's okay because you can't afford it. So you're not going to buy the watch, but you put yourself through the whole process of wanting to buy it, and then you just go buy something you can't afford. Like I feel like that happens too.
Yeah, I don't do the what if I could afford that type of thing because it's mentally exhausting to start thinking about like
rose gold Nautilus.
I mean, it's gorgeous.
Rose gold 5711. You ever put that on your wrist? It makes you want to buy other watches that you can afford.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's just I'm not going to own that watch. But it does make me start to think, well, what if I could get a steel? Right? Like, what if I could get a stainless steel one? But then realistically, like, I can't afford that. I could probably afford that if I stretched. Mm-hmm. But if I could get one at retail, which is never going to happen.
Well, it's like I have the money. It doesn't mean I can afford it.
Right. It just, I mean. Watches it's definitely because of what we do. It's a weakness. There's plenty of other things that we spend money on. That's fun too. Good steaks, good drinks, cigars. Going out, having a good time. That's fun. But the cool thing with the watch is it stays with you, and that's one of the things about owning something that's stationary, which is nice because it's I have this conversation with a lot of collectors that are like, my wife prefers to travel. I prefer to own things that are solid because at least I own something at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But there is value in the experience. But the thing is one, do both. So why don't you meet in the middle and do both? But I just there is something to be said.
Go on a vacation.
Yeah, there is something to be said for having something tried and true and tested on your wrist. So.
Oh God, Blake Starr. So the chat box is actually popping off.
Guys are having their conversations.
They're having a great time. I think that this is a very relatable conversation. I mean, I could be talking about this all night. In fact, I think we're this is our marathon show. We're going 12 hours with this one. All right, cool. The guys on the
Let's put a clock.
the
Scroll at the
crew
bottom.
are loving this. No dates tonight, right, guys? You guys get
Immediately got a bunch of these from the back of the camera. So nope.
So Blake Starr says he's made a ton of rookie mistakes. He goes, when he was 15, he spent $2,000 on a Movado and $1,000 on a Gucci watch. Oh, I mean, you set money on fire, set $3,000 on fire. Imagine what you could buy now with that $3,000. But I'm hoping that you become a millionaire. Now it doesn't matter, Blake. You also said that you want a solid gold Zenith. So I mean, sure.
So
more mistakes.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, the solid gold Zenith now, if it's pre-owned,
it's a great deal.
You can get a phenomenal deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to kind of make that mistake before you realize it's all like now you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I have a lot of guys. I want to sell this, solid gold IWC that I bought. It was my first watch. The lady at the boutique, she was very, very. She looked so intelligent, and she talked me into it and told me it was going to hold so much value. And looking at it online, I see it listed for half of what I paid. But I got to get out of it because I just can't wear it anymore. We've had those conversations all the time.
Yeah.
Oh God. Let's see here. Philip Hayden says, I try to talk myself out of buying Seiko divers. I already have one. Need to save for my Omega Seamaster. Dude, you can't have enough Seiko divers. So you guys saw the one I bought, right? Yeah, I bought 2 since. I haven't worn them. They're just sitting in my house. Jason, do you have two or three?
I have 2 right now. A good part of that chunk of big watches I have were Seikos.
Okay.
I had to have, it was a completionist mentality. Like I had to have all the dials, all the hands, it was crazy. And it was fun for what it was, and for what it is, I will say I didn't lose any money on the Seikos. Like Seikos you can get in very cheap, you can get out relatively fair.
Right, yeah.
So
they don't
always
lose
somebody that's going to want a Seiko.
Exactly.
Which is cool. I try and use my Seikos more for like when we go shooting or like the rough weekend activities, like if we're going hiking or something like that. But that's kind of what we talked about with the Oris and stuff like that. I don't know what he's looking like that for. If 99.9% of the time he's right next to me shooting.
Hey,
so
listen, this is inappropriate talk, Jason. Oh Lord, but yeah. So it's good to have a whole range of watches. I know, guys. So
range.
What
range?
Jeez, Dan. So you're a terrible person, Jason. So
nice.
I have a really good customer who probably buys a watch every week for me. Likes to trade a lot.
He's a good guy, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what he wants to do. He probably has 200 watches, but they range literally from like Seikos and Grand Seikos to what's like the most high end watch? Well, he's got an Hublot Tourbillon. Well, actually, I don't know if he still has that. He might have traded it, but I mean, like having a wide range, I think is cool, and that's like. You see guys like getting to the last step. So, say you start making a little bit of money when you're, say, our age, and you start buying watches here and there, and you obviously want to be careful what you buy because, we're not Mr. Moneybags over here. So,
right.
You like to think, oh, well, what I have, it's roughly worth what I paid for it. So if, shit hits the fan, I can try to get rid of these, right? It's like that probably will never happen because honestly, they're probably worth half of what we paid, and shit will never hit the fan.
Most of them less than that, yeah.
Right, exactly. So. But, you hope by the time you get to be, an old guy, right? So when we're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, we're rolling in the dough and we can just make this, fun, and we can buy anything. I can make things that we used to think were mistakes.
Right.
Go buy that Hublot Tourbillon. You know why? Because it looks awesome and I want to wear it on the golf course.
Well, it's like the sense of accomplishment, like you were talking about, with buying something that really means something to you, and then the sense of fun of buying something like a Seiko or even that Oris 65.
Yes.
Like I bought that. I knew I wanted that watch in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely on the list. I had gotten rid of the blue one, knew it was going to eventually get the green one.
Mm-hmm.
But when it showed up, it was on a whim. I just, wow, we got one of these? All right, I'm going to buy it. But I had already done the research and known that I was going to want that watch. But the sense that, you know what, I'm just going to get it was also kind of a fun experience because it's having that, $500 or $700 of expendable income for something that's going to bring you some joy is also part of this.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And it kind of pushes. I think another part of it possibly, I know, is for me is that when I look at like a gold president, right? And I'm like, well, do I have the money to spend? Do I have the money? Does it exist? Yeah. Do I have it to spend? Absolutely not. But maybe I need to work a little harder, make a few moves in my career, try to get to a point where I could buy that too. So it's actually, it's like the carrot and the stick, right? So part of watch collecting, especially for guys our age, it might be wanting to push ourselves further. Not getting complacent.
Yeah.
That could be part of it as well.
I think that has to do with a lot of guys that kind of sit on the end of the chair that we are, where it's like, one day I'm going to be the guy calling me.
Yeah.
Like in any type of sales, one day I'm going to be the guy,
who wants to buy the
people
Ferrari
are chasing
or whatever,
and not
you're selling.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. Let me give a shout out to Eric Nielsen. He sent us an email about a listing that we had, and it was incorrect. And we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Go ahead and direct all those to Tim from now on, by the way. It's Tim at
That's his favorite thing.
He loves
you
getting
for
those
that.
emails, yeah.
And now Josh is fired.
Whatever.
There's always other things.
That's right. I'll go sell toilet paper.
Who else is in the chat? Any good questions? They just
let's see, guys. I'm just looking. This chat's busy as hell. I don't think they're even watching the show. I think they're just talking amongst themselves, which is cool.
Eric Nielsen, Jason, I got my D65 by bidding $300 over on last minute price and winning for $10 over.
It's a D65.
And that's the Damasco. I think Eric texted me about. We were talking about.
Oh, nice.
For you guys that don't know Damasco, if you're a fan of like Sin watches or any kind of like engineer watch, Damasco is totally worth your time doing a little bit of research. They're awesome watches. Same tegmented steel, in-house movements. They do some chronographs. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it. I see here someone named the Watch Lounge says, I used to be mainly a dive watch guy. Now I'm getting into field watches and pilot watches. If everything works out on the Explorer 2 Black Dial, be in the collection soon. So yeah, that's a cool way to collect too. I'm all over the place. The way I like to think about it is I want to have a watch kind of for every day, but also for like certain occasions. So like having some dress watches here and there. But I think eventually once I kind of own all the like every genre of watch, then I'll go into like, all right, let me own a bunch of dive watches. Let me own a bunch of pilots watches. I think that'd be a cool next step in the hobby. And in that range, you could. I don't have to be a millionaire in order to afford those watches either. So if it never happens for me, Jason, I can still spend a few bucks.
Well, once I hit that, I'll look out for you.
Oh, thanks. I could be your butler.
One of the only kind of like genres like that I've never really are drive watches, which never really did it for me. But I could totally see the field watches.
Drive watches?
Yeah, and drivers watches, like just never really. I don't understand the concept.
Oh, there's like a Romain Jerome that looks like where you hold it sideways and you can see the.
Yeah, it just.
Yeah, Romain Jerome, great watches, Jason. Got to get one of those in the collection.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. What do you say we wrap this thing up?
Guys, what have been the top 3 watches you've sold this year? Edmund Alblas has asked. So we're talking about price point. For me, it's like Patek, Richard Mille.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a Patek 5970. I sold a Richard Mille RM30, a Richard Mille RM 1103, the NTPT.
Yeah.
Sold those 3 watches. I think those are probably the top end in terms of the price points. Yeah. That's it. I mean, anything over 100 grand is usually like a big deal.
5980R on a bracelet I sold, which was pretty awesome. I sold an RM 1102, which was awesome.
What's 1102?
That's the titanium, rose gold with the green, with the black strap. The one I bought was on green. The one I sold was on black.
Oh, nice.
And then I don't know.
Well, we think more about the watches we buy than more about.
I don't know what the third one would be. I'm sure it's up there. But
I'm trying to think here. The watches. What are top 3? Because it's coming towards the end of the year. Maybe we should talk about this more in depth. Like, we'll do an award show. Best watches we bought. Best watches we sold. Best trades. Best customers. Maybe we'll do something like no. Sounds like a terrible idea.
Sounds like it's time to leave. That's what it sounds like.
All right, guys.
The guys back here agree.
Jason's got a date tonight.
Yeah.
So wish him luck.
Date with a steak and a Jameson. That's what.
Wish him luck on his date tonight.
All right, guys. We sincerely appreciate you guys staying with us on a Friday. We hope that this made the drive home a little easier or the end of your night in the office a little bit easier. If you're listening to the podcast, that's probably the safest way to drive home and watch or listen,
I say take chances, drive fast.
Anyhow, thanks for logging on. Thanks for chatting on the box.
Oh, yeah. Subscribe to our channel.
Why don't we pull the poll one more time?
Oh, yeah. Let's see what the poll looks like, guys.
Let's
see how many rich guys we got out there.
Where the rich guys at?
$25 grand on a JLC.
Look at that.
Look at all those rich guys. I applaud you. Keep putting up the hard work, guys, because that's what we need. Hard workers in America. That's right. All right. Spend your hard-earned American money on Swiss watches.
Cue Josh's rant. Go.
All right, guys. Yeah, but go. Realistically, we want you to subscribe. I think we're up to over 56,000 subscribers now. Subscribe.